Drive podcast.
All right, welcome back to episode 203. This is a good one. I'm excited. It's a little bit different, kind of more up my alley. A little bit of fishing. You guys asked, you guys shall receive. This is your boy, East Coast Trev, and I'm joined by my good buddy, Mr. Madman Mardick.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, shit.
What up, brother?
What
Happy
up,
birthday.
dude? Oh, I guess it is my birthday, dude.
It is.
I didn't even think about that.
Podcast land.
Yeah, podcast land. It's going to be my birthday.
In real land, we already celebrated it.
Oh, we celebrated. All right.
I had a blast from what I can remember of it.
Yeah, whatever. I don't remember none of it. I don't even know. And it was my birthday, but that's okay. It's all
Well,
good.
it looks like we're going to be able to do it again, though.
Yeah, I know, because Jason Aldean can't golf and perform.
Yeah, Jason Aldean's kind of a pussy.
Yeah, I mean, you golfed and then you went and performed. So what did it really matter?
Yeah, I don't know what's factual or not, but from what I heard is he played golf in the morning, he drank, and he couldn't perform.
Well,
I golfed in the morning, I drank, and I was fine.
Yeah,
So, apparently those Georgia boys can't handle the Connecticut heat.
I guess not. I mean, that was the first thing he said when he came out, but whatever. It's all good.
Yeah,
We'll leave him alone.
But I did notice this, and I got to mention it. He's kind of an idiot. He comes out. He's got to have his square toe boots on, his tight jeans, and his little chains, and his cowboy hat, right?
And his flannel. He had to have his flannel.
He looked like he was ready for ATA.
Yeah, he did look like he was ready for ATA.
Anyways, my man Mitchell Tenpenny comes out, puts on his entire show. What's he wearing? Shorts and Jordans. You can't go wrong with the Jordans.
This is true. This is very, very true. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you at all, Steve.
It's definitely the play. I'm onto something here.
You are. I mean, you and Mitchell
how about
Tenpenny.
how about Mitchell Tenpenny rocking the Hall's archery T-shirt?
Yeah, but it's not a Connecticut Halls archery T-shirt though.
Well, in my mind, it was.
It was. He had a Halls archery T-shirt, but I don't think it was the Connecticut Halls archery T-shirt.
You never know. Maybe while Jason Aldean was playing golf, Mitchell Tenpenny was at Hall shooting his bow.
And his Jordans.
And his Jordans.
I mean, if Jason Aldean and Mitchell Tenpenny want to, rebut any of this on the podcast, we'd love to have them.
Mitchell Tenpenny would do it. Maybe.
I think it would. Yeah, for sure. All right, get on it, Steve. Maybe we can talk Jordans on the podcast with Tenpenny. All right. Well, let's get through the sponsorships, man. What do you think, dude? We go.
That's a good idea. We should probably do that.
Yeah, before we forget. That'd probably be good. So, we are title sponsored by Huntworth, huntworthgear.com. Get more for less with Huntworth. Some of the best camo on the market. You guys need to pay attention to their stuff. Go and check them out on social media or their website. They're always running sales, especially before the season. Now is the time to get that camouflage for your early season deer hunting experience and even your late hunting season if you want. Nor'easter Game Calls, nor'eastergamecalls.com. Get them in close with Nor'easter. Get your custom grunt tube. Now is the time to do so. The season is right around the corner. Plus, there's some holidays, Columbus Day, whatever the case may be. You might want to get a gift for a friend. So now's the time to get on over to nor'eastergamecalls.com. Latitude Outdoors, latitudeoutdoors.com. Use promotional code Outdoor Drive on that one. Save yourself 15% off of the Latitude gear, the new stick, stand, saddle, so on and so forth. They're all on the website. And then last but not least, Bowhunters United, bowhuntersunited.com. They do sponsor the News for Your Cruise with Mr. Mike Salter. Let's take the moment to get on over there. Oh, before all the links are below in the podcast. You can read and weep and click on all of the links to all of our sponsors, and also you can sign up for Bowhunters United. Let's take a minute. Let's take a break. Let's go see our big buddy, Mr. Mike Salter, and then we'll get back with the normal program as advised.
All right, guys, why don't we buckle up and see what's going on in the world of news with Mr. Mike Salter.
Hey everyone, we're going to start this one off in Maryland, where the DNR is offering an online process for hunters to apply for a 2023-24 waterfowl blind site license, which reserves a location for a landowner or authorized individual to place a hunting blind. Hunters may enter the annual lottery until 12:59 p.m. on July 25th. Hunters can register to be entered into a random lottery for a county of their choice. Landowners who would like to license their own properties may also enter the same lottery. There is no charge to enter the lottery, and applicants must be Maryland residents and must hold a current Maryland hunting license. Additional info is available on the department's website, and lottery winners will be posted on the department's website and will be notified by email with a time, date, and link to a virtual meeting. Now to Montana, where the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks is seeking public comment on 2 environmental assessments. First is the West Slope Cutthroat Trout Restoration, Bryant Creek, and Introduction, Calvert Mine Pond, Big Hole River Drainage, Draft EA. FWP is proposing to restore native West Slope cutthroat trout in Bryant Creek and stock West Slope cutthroats in Calvert Mine Pond. Following a 2021 fire, brook trout gained access to Trident Meadow, and FWP anticipates brook trout will eliminate West Slope cutthroats in Bryant Creek within the next 5 to 10 years. To restore West Slope cutthroats to Bryant Creek, project collaborators constructed a fish barrier 1.5 miles upstream of the confluence with the Big Hole River. FWP proposes to remove brook trout upstream of the barrier using a pesticide, and FWP would salvage West Slope cutthroats and restock them once the project is complete. The action would expand the cutthroat range from 1 to 11 miles in Bryant Creek and should secure long-term survival of the population. FWP also proposes to stock Calvert Mine Pond, an abandoned open pit mine located in a non-sulfur-bearing bedrock formation within the Bryant Creek drainage. The high water quality can support fish and would create another recreational fishery in the area. Comments on this EA are due by July 22nd. Second is the 2023 Draft Elk Management Plan EA. Under the proposed action, FWP would adopt and implement the 2023 Draft Statewide Elk Management Plan. The current elk plan was adopted in 2005. In 2005, FWP observed 98,643 elk on the landscape, whereas in 2020, the 2022 survey showed 141,294 elk on the landscape. Although elk distribution has changed historically, elk have primarily expanded their distribution and density in the past decade based primarily on aerial surveys. Comments on this EA are due July 31st. The full EAs and instructions for submitting comments can be found at fwp.mt.gov/public-notices. Now to Michigan, where some great news for wing shooters. The DNR's highly anticipated pheasant release program is expanding for the upcoming pheasant hunting season. This year, the program will include 3 times more rooster pheasants released than last year, 4 new release sites in Cass City, Crane Pond, Dassville, and Stanton game areas, and additional release in December on state game areas with an open pheasant hunting season. Adam Bump, DNR upland game specialist, said that for seasoned hunters and newcomers alike, this is a prime opportunity for everyone to experience the thrill of pheasant hunting. We're excited to expand the pheasant release program and offer hunters a unique chance to connect or reconnect with upland bird hunting in Michigan. And the increased number of rooster pheasants and the addition of new release locations ensure that hunters can enjoy a memorable hunting season. To learn more about the pheasant release program, including licensing requirements, season dates, and hunting regulations, visit michigan.gov/smallgame. Next to Minnesota, where Sarah Stroman, commissioner of the DNR, recently issued an order banning the use of lead ammunition on 56 scientific and natural areas where hunting is allowed. The move comes on the heels of the legislative session where lead ammunition bans for public hunting areas were considered but not advanced by the legislature. This means that thousands of acres are now off limits for hunters that can't afford the high expense of lead alternatives, said Todd Adkins, Vice President of Government Affairs at the Sportsman Alliance. And the order contains no data that shows that lead is actually a problem for these 56 SNAs. Adkins went on to say, "This is a massive case of executive overreach by Commissioner Stroman, and we are reviewing the administrative record and will decide soon what next steps will protect sportsmen going forward." Now to California, where the governor's 2024 budget includes a 300% increase in boat registration fees. Boat US and the nonprofit Recreational Boaters of California are asking boat owners in the state to voice their concerns about the rate hike. Boat US and RBOC are also concerned that the additional funds collected would not go to boating programs and services such as education, operator certification, safety, and enforcement. You can contact your legislators directly by going to www.votervoice.net/boatus/campaigns/106391/respond. Lastly, in Maine, where the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife recently finalized the purchase of over 700 acres in Rangeley, creating the Rangeley Wildlife Management Area, comprised of over 600 acres of prime deer wintering habitat and shore frontage on Ross Pond, which contains a wild, safe, self-sustaining brook trout fishery. The new parcel is the first to be purchased under the new law in 2021, which directs the department to purchase land to create new WMAs with the primary purpose of improving or maintaining deer habitats in northern, eastern, and western parts of the state. The new WMA features excellent deer habitat utilized throughout the year. The department will manage this as an active deer wintering area. The property also includes inland wading bird and waterfowl habitat, and Ross Pond is one of Maine's heritage fish waters. So a great step forward there in Maine. Also, don't forget to click on the Outdoor Drives affiliate link in the episode description to become a member of Bowhunters United today and protect and expand your bow hunting rights. As always, if you have anything to send along to me, it would be greatly appreciated. Reach out to me at Mike Salter on Facebook or bearded_bowhunter21 on Instagram. And with that, enjoy the rest of your ride.
All right. Thank you, Mike Salter. We appreciate you, buddy. And news from your cruise from Bowhunters United. All right, Steve, you still there, buddy? You ready to get going?
Here.
All right, cool. All right, great. Present. I'm here.
Present.
I got you.
I had my ag meeting tonight too, so I'm ready for yays and nays.
Oh, what does that even mean?
Just what you do in the meeting. All in favor? Yay. All opposed? Nay.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Meeting adjourned.
Are you in favor for moving on and getting on Adam with kayak fishing?
Yay.
Okay. Well, then let's go.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
All right. You ready?
Send it.
All right. Here we go. All right. We're back on the phone with Adam Lurch, the kayaking man. What's up, Adam?
Not much, man. Doing good. How are you?
Good, man. Appreciate you jumping on. I know it's the hot season to be out fishing, dude. So to take the time away from it to be here.
It's nice to actually get a rest.
Yeah, I bet, dude. Chasing stripers.
A lot of pedaling.
Yeah. Hey, man, let's dive right into it, dude. Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do?
I'm Adam Lurch. I'm a kayak fishing guide. My guide service is stem to stern kayak fishing, and I'm a fishing nut.
That's awesome, dude. And kind of, where did it all start for you to kind of like get into kayak fishing? I know it's kind of like it's a new phase, right? Like we'll call it a phase.
It is a new phase. I actually started out pretty young when I was living in Florida with my pops, and he'd take me out and we'd go hit all the little ponds that are in all the little businesses because it's got a low to sea level, so they have to have a bunch of ponds to run off all the rainwater. So we'd go hit all those ponds and have a good time.
And that was just kayak fishing.
Yep, that was it. Some from shore, but the kayak allowed us to reach places we couldn't from shore, and it just made us more accessible.
Now, did you do a lot of freshwater fishing when you were down there in Florida, or was there salt too?
Oh, yeah, I did a lot of largemouth bass. I did a lot of speckled trout, redfish, stuff like that, triple tail.
Did a lot of that kind of change into New England style saltwater fishing?
It did. At that point, I was living with my dad. Then I moved up here to Connecticut, and I was kind of detached from fishing. I didn't fish so much. And one of my good friends, Josh, his father was an avid fisherman, and he reintroduced me into the kayak fishing, and I got right into chasing stripers.
That's awesome. And they didn't have the pedal kayaking back when you started, did they?
Oh, no, it was all paddle. I think even the sit-on tops were fairly new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was that. When did that all really kick off? I mean, 2007, 2000, almost like 2008 era?
I think even earlier 2000s. I think Hobie came out with their Mirage Drive. I can't really remember. I think it was 2001. It may have been before that, but 2001, I fished a tournament, J Bay tournament out of New York, and I seen a lot of the pedal drives there. And at that time, I was still a paddle guy.
Yep.
I was actually a paddle guy up until a couple years ago when I actually started my guide service.
Has that kind of changed the accessibility by having the pedal drive?
I think it makes it easier to get some of the tasks that you have to perform to catch fish. Just makes it easier. Your hands free. You can slow, like if you're fluking, you can slow your drift down. You can speed your drift up. You can hold a spot, like if you're togging, and you're exploring new area, you can hold yourself there for a minute, see if you can build a bite up. If you think it's a feasible spot to continue fishing, then you can, decide to anchor up or.
So it kind of keeps it. It's a little bit different. If you're pedaling or paddling, then you're not going to be able to do such a thing trying to get into those spots.
Yeah, you'd be putting a lot more effort into.
Yeah.
It's hard to hold, paddle and fish at the exact same time. So, I can do like half hold my paddle and, kind of push it and slow my drift down, but it is a taxing endeavor.
Yeah, I remember when I had first started, I had a Heritage Redfish when that was like one of the first sit-on kayaks to come out,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
but then they had come out with the whole pedal drive thing, and like I guess it really separates the men from the boys in that point, and having a pedal style kayak.
Yeah, yeah. I think it makes it a lot easier for a lot of techniques when you're fishing.
For sure. So what made you kind of want to start a guide service kayak fishing? Like where did that come from and what was the reason for it and kind of tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I've been doing it for a long time, and all my buddies and family and friends, they'd always hit me up, and I spent a good part of my life taking them out, and I just enjoyed getting people those first big bass on a kayak.
Mm-hmm. And then you just kind of turned it into a business, and that's to be able to take more
Yep.
people out. And
Yep. Well, it's just something I enjoy to do, and if I can share it with other people, then it's that much better.
I know that feeling 100% tenfold, man. That's really what it's all entails is taking somebody out and putting that smile on their face, whether it's a little kid or somebody who's 50 years old and never caught a fish of that caliber. I mean, that's what really it's what really does it, man.
Absolutely.
So when you're in when you're just about to get into kayak fishing, like take us through the steps, kind of like what you would need to get it going.
Oh, obviously a kayak. And then a lot of that's going to depend on how much you want to spend. You can go as low to go to Walmart and get one of their lower end products, and with a paddle and get right into it. You're going to need the obvious safety gear, life jacket. I would suggest a radio, lights if you're going to be out at night. And always let people know that you're going as well. And, just take it slowly when you get out there. And also, for one of the first things you should do is practice self-recovery. And a big part of that, too, is just to get you comfortable, knowing that, it's okay to fall out of the kayak because I can get right back into it. So then you can push yourself a little farther, in the different areas and actually be comfortable to fish them.
So you're saying literally go out with nothing in the kayak and try and get off of it and get back onto it or flip it over and see push the boundaries on that boat and see
Absolutely.
what it will do and so on and so forth.
Yep, absolutely. And then also do it with your gear on. Because, if you have a fish finder on there or a rod holder, that may be a spot where you're actually climbing over onto the kayak. It may inhibit you from doing so. and then that way you can figure out where you want to place stuff. And
Have you ever had one of those scenarios where you've fallen off the kayak being out there? Like,
I had one time I accidentally fell out. It was actually fishing a J-bait tournament, and it was on a practice day, or it was the day they canceled. It was windy, it was foggy, and it was just hard conditions to fish. So they pushed it back a day. And of course, I went out. I wanted to scope area out and get a game plan for the next day. And I just wore myself out, and I found myself. I was took a rest. I was latched onto a pylon, and just wasn't paying attention, exhausted, and I pushed myself off the pylon. At the same time, a wave was coming from my back, and it just covered the stern of the kayak, and the wave twisted me over, and luckily I was fishing with a buddy. All my gear was everywhere. I lost my paddle. That's when I learned you should actually have a if you're paddling, you should always have another paddle just in case. And then also if you're pedaling, you need to have a paddle just in case something happens.
that's crazy, dude. Like, I couldn't even imagine being out there. Like, do you tether your rods onto the kayak?
If it costs money, I tether it.
Really?
Yes, I lost rods, pliers, everything you could think of. Sunglasses. Once lost a life jacket.
So you want to tether everything that doesn't float?
Yeah, I suggest so.
Yeah. You don't want to lose that stuff.
It can make it more difficult to fish depending where your rod's strapped to and stuff like that. But over time you'll adjust and learn how to fish with the straps on there.
So when you were talking about the tournaments, you fish a lot of tournaments, bass tournaments?
I not bass tournaments. This was a saltwater tournament for multiple species. It was weakfish, bluefish, and striper, and but that's I've done one or two other tournaments, and that's it really.
So you don't do a lot of the tournament fishing?
Yeah, I don't do too many. I was thinking about doing a couple this year. We'll see.
So what, are they like local shops that put these things on, or what?
Yeah, I can't remember who put the organization. I think I know they had a big part of it was casting for recovery, and I believe that was something to do with recovering people who used to have cancer, who survived cancer, and because a lot of the proceeds went to that. But there are local shops. I've seen New England Dive Shop. I think they put on a tournament one year. They may still. I know in Mass, I believe they do a Black Sea Bass tournament. And then I know Black Hole Outfitters also holds quite a few tournaments.
Yeah, I just it's crazy to see like the kayak. The kayak community has totally bloomed in the past 5-10 years.
Yep.
Like how many people, like I know all the time when we're out, there's always kayakers around us all the time.
Yep.
I mean, 4, 5, 6 boats everywhere. And you're like, geez, man, like where did you come from? Like it's just crazy to see. And it's an easy, cheap way to get out there and do it. Like it really is. I mean, because if you were to buy a real center console or whatever, a fishing boat, I mean, you're talking big money, and for a quarter of that cost, you could be out there and fishing, and you don't have to worry about bringing a friend or gas or whatever. I mean, it's a pretty simple way of doing it.
Probably just your gas bill for the year, I could probably purchase a couple of kayaks. Easy.
Yeah, but I mean, in the saltwater world, is there like restrictions though, like that restrict you from doing certain things like bait fishing or stuff like that?
Some of the biggest limitations are going to be put on you by Mother Nature and your own physical abilities. You got to plan your days accordingly to what the weather is, the tide is. I like to plan my trip so I'm going out with the tide and coming back in with it, or vice versa. And it definitely gives you a different perspective on what you're working with when you're out there.
So is there like a distance that like you set from shore, or like do you like kind of like plan your route, like I'm going to go to this reef on this tide, or like cuz there's got to be a little bit more that you have to pay attention to be able to go to some of these places that these guys are kayak fishing.
Yeah, wind direction, uh, phases in the tide, and you just got to be alert and take it slow. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't do it.
So that's kind of, I mean, that's more or less some of the things that we have to deal with even on a motorboat, though. Like knowing what tide with what wind and what areas where those fish are going to stage on a certain part of the reef, but then the moon phases play a big. So there's like a lot of things that calculate into it to be able to be in some of those places.
Yeah, what I'm saying is like say like the Connecticut River on an outgoing tide. I've made the mistake of going out and moving from upriver to downriver from fish, and then just getting stuck downriver. I literally sat in a eddy behind a pylon, for the entire tide just because I was so worn out.
Jeez.
Where if you're in a motorboat, if you got a motor and you're in a boat, that's a limitation that's not going to be put on you.
Right, exactly. It's just the fishing limitation as to where it would be in a certain tide. But you do, and you bring up a really valid point on a safety measure is like some of these places have high current. Well, Connecticut River, Long Island Sound, the Hudson. I mean, like, there's a lot of these places that have heavy tides that like we have a hard time. Not a hard time, but you can feel the restraint on a motorboat. Never mind a human that's been fishing for 6-8 hours in a kayak and then is trying to get back to the launch. So you kind of got to plan accordingly where you launch from, where you're going to, how you're coming back. I mean, you pedaling is different than paddling, right? I mean, like you're still going to get worn
absolutely.
out.
You can pedal for a lot longer. Well, I can't even say that because I paddled for many, many years, and I've gone probably even farther distance with a paddle kayak. But your physical ability does have limitations. You do get tired, and you just got to be aware of that. And everybody's different. So
I think one of the things too, and you had brought this up a little bit before with some of the safety things with like lights and so on and so forth. Like, there's a lot of times that you're out there, and I mean kayaks are only required to have just their white anchor light because they're not a motor powered boat, and that's not even it's not even required. It's recommended. And those guys still, I mean, I recommend, and my own recommendation would be to have a green and a red and a white so that you can be seen from a further distance.
Yeah, I do believe they did make it mandatory for you to have that white 360-degree light.
Oh, they did make it.
Yeah, I believe they did, along with like a noise device, a horn, a whistle. And of course your life jacket.
Yeah, and that's one thing with being on a kayak. If you're man powered, then you have after October you have to wear your life jacket at all times.
Yep, absolutely.
But the kayakers, they wear theirs all the time, anyways.
Yeah, I prefer to. A lot of my tools and my pliers, little line cutters and stuff like that. It's all on my life jacket. Makes it handy and available right there when you need it.
Yeah. That's all. No, it's just I mean it's a smart measure because in a kayak, what are you going to do? Go for your life jacket? You're already in the water at that point. It's not like a boat where you're like trying to find
it. And if you have it on, if you fall out, it's just that much more easier to get back in your kayak. You don't have to tread water and exhaust yourself prior to getting into your kayak.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, man,
one less thing you got to think about.
Yeah, I want to shift gears a little bit, dude. Why don't you take us through a day of fishing with you, Adam? As like, say that I was a client and we're gonna go out fishing, man. Take me from start to finish, just so that people can kind of know what they're getting themselves into if they were to, book a fishing trip with you.
It will vary. depending on the client, I like to tailor each trip towards the client. Because like I said, everybody has different physical abilities and different experiences on the kayak. So I'd be planning the trip accordingly. And it all too depends on your skill level in fishing and, how you're going to adapt to it.
So say that, if, oh, I get what you're saying. So, like, if you're physically not fit to be able to go far, you're not going to go far. And if you're not really,
Yes.
yeah.
Exactly.
So you would find somewhere that you could go and striper fish in a local bay or whatever the case may be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Somewhere, more sheltered, not as many waves, less current, probably not as far as of a distance, and I like to have a plan just in case, so like if you were to fall out of your kayak, I wanted, and you weren't able to get into it, then I want to know that I can get you to shore myself,
So it's always for the safety of the client. And it's a smart thing. And like, for example, today, like I had two clients today, father and son, and we got out there and we were fishing in, the straight Atlantic Ocean. And there was residuals from the storm before. Well, they got seasick.
Yep.
And you don't think about those things, but like now it's a change of plan. Like we're eel fishing for big stripers, and then now we got to go inside and sea bass fish because like they just didn't. It wasn't what they would have been able to do or handle in the big seas because people do get seasick.
Absolutely.
And I mean,
and that's something I luckily haven't come across yet in the kayak because I know how debilitating that can be. If you're sick and bent over, throwing up, you're not going to be concentrating on the waves or the breakers coming at you or which direction you're even traveling in.
Yeah. I don't even know. I've never really heard of anyone really getting seasick in a kayak. I mean, I don't know.
Families, friends of the family, took his daughter out, and she got a little seasick. But if you're aware of that, you can make adjustments. They took a little lunch break, went to the beach, relaxed. But she was so excited about it. She already got on a couple talks, so it didn't take her long. She went right back out there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, especially with the younger generations. You kind of got to keep the positivity going. That was why, like they wanted to end the trip and today, and I'm like, well, you can't end the trip because that's the only thing that the kid's gonna be able to think about is that last time he was on a boat was a negative thing, and you can't keep it on a negative because they need to have a positive. You need to positive reinforcement into it so that they know that next time they come out that, all right, it's not that bad. Like we just had a bad scenario. Now things are good and they can keep moving forward. So like, I mean, I guess that's with everybody, right? I mean, like even if you had newer kayak fishermen come in and that, but so when you're kayak fishing like trophy stripers, because that's obviously more or less your forte and catching big trophy stripers, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to, like in doing to find those trophy stripers? I mean, like, how do you go about finding them and so on and so forth in the kayak?
Oh, a lot of it just my experience over time, and past places I've caught fish, over the 20 years I've been doing it. Right. And then but every year does change, so it takes a lot. I have a day job as well. I actually only guide on the weekends, but I'm out 3-4 times a week during my work week. And then I'm back out on the weekend. So I put a ton of time in, and I rely on my electronics, and I just fish.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, that's a perfect answer, right? Because like in all reality, like it's time on the water, and your electronics. I mean, now we're in the world of electronics where we rely on them, and then we base them on the things that we do from day to day, right? Like the different things in the change of the season, like where those fish are going to stage, what they're doing, where the bait is, like are you more of an artificial guy and throwing plastics and top waters, or and just looking for the reaction bites, or
it really it varies a lot. Some nights, especially if you're less experienced, I'll actually tend to go with, a live bait like a eel. There's less involved with you, working that eel. That eel is going to work itself for you. But sometimes that doesn't work. I was fishing the Connecticut River earlier this year, and I maybe pick up one fish and all night on an eel, and it just to see the amount of fish there with my electronics, I knew I could be doing something else that would be working better. And that's when I start trying to match the hatch, or which was bunker. The Connecticut River holds quite a few bunker, so I just try to match that size profile, something similar in color. And it may be a plug, it may be a soft plastic, or if I'm come across the school of them, I'll snag a couple.
Yeah, and that's a really valid point in what you're saying, is like matching that hatch, because like and especially this year, I don't know what it is this year over other years, but like the stripers were so keyed in on that bait. Like you couldn't throw a topwater dock at them and catch them in those schools. Like we would literally like bait and switch. Like we would be cast netting bunker, throwing out bunker, letting them blow up on them, and then take a topwater through them to be able to get them to take. But that was like 1 in 3, where like you weren't able to get them on a topwater. You could throw until your arms fell off and not even get a reaction out of them.
I had pretty much the same experience. I found that, most of my success there this year came from not fishing where the bunker was. If I couldn't, get a bunker, snag one fairly quick, I didn't spend much time around them. I try to get away from a little bit and find some bass that aren't stuck on that pot of bunker. And I found that then I had more success on the artificials.
See, now, do you fish the Thames a lot too? Is that one of the other places that you fish sometimes?
Yup, I grew up fishing the Thames a lot, and it has changed a lot over the years, and even year to year it changes drastically. And that's mainly, I feel, because of the bunker. Some years we just don't get the number of bunker in there that we do see some years.
And it's crazy there too, because sometimes in that spring run in the Thames, it's hard to get them to take an artificial.
Oh, absolutely. I know, like early spring when they're on the herring, I once read when I was younger that when the herring bite first starts, you have a better chance on getting them to take an artificial, because they know the herring's there. They're excited to get on it, just like we're excited to catch the stripers that are chasing a herring. And they're more willing to, take an artificial, where if they've been sitting there feeding on that herring for, several weeks now, they know what that herring looks like, they know what it smells like, and they know how it reacts and moves. And it's just hard to match exactly what that herring is doing. And then it is a little more difficult to get them to take artificial.
It's just crazy to me that it's hard for them to take an artificial when, like, in the fall run, they'll take anything. They won't take anything live. They'll only take an artificial. Yep. Like when you're chasing them underneath the birds or the smaller bait, like they're not as keyed in on that smaller bait, and they will literally take anything that you throw at them.
Yep.
And
I think part of that is they're heavy on the feed. They know winter's coming, and if you put something in their face and it's trying to get away, I feel they're going to eat it.
It's just crazy though. Like if you're anywhere near the bait, I mean, like obviously you've been in scenarios where like they're solely hooked on like sand eels. And like that's
Yep.
a hatch that's tough to match. And they will
It
literally,
is.
dude, I don't know how many times that I've been out and been in a sand eel hatch, and you're just like,
Yep.
you just hear these giant bass just slurping the top of the water, and they won't take a single thing. I don't care what you throw; they're just not going to take it.
It's like just like the worm hatches, the cinder worms and stuff. It's same thing, you know. And that's a tiny bait, really hard to imitate, and they can be real difficult to get them to take something.
And I mean, technology has slowly, or progressed and made a lot of baits that imitate those a lot better, and
Yep.
they're more, it's probably better than when we were in our teens trying to chase these big bass, and like, what do you throw at them? There's no lure out there but these epoxy
Yep.
jigs, and there's stuff
Yep.
that now matches, the worm hatches and the sand
Yep.
eel hatches. There is those
Absolutely.
lures, but then I think over generations, those fish kind of get a little bit smarter than it too. Like where
Yep.
you see it with like the dock, for example. The dock is
Yep.
one of those those lures that when it first came out, Hayden originally had made the Super Magnum spook. I don't know if you remember. It was the wooden one. And there was a series of them. There was like 7 or 8 different ones. And like then the dock had come out, but those big spooks, that big spook class, they were like the
Yeah.
end all be all to big trophy stripers.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
now you see everybody and their brother has them because they worked, but I feel as if that they're slowly declining in how well they actually work in trying to catch those
Yep.
fish.
I agree. I agree as well. And I feel that too can change depending on how many people are actually fishing on that body of fish at the time. If you come in and there's nobody around, haven't fished, hasn't thrown that spook on them all day, I think you have a better luck. But like you said, you go to the Connecticut River and it's lined with boats, and everybody, like you said, everyone has a spook on there. So they've already seen that presentation 10 times that day.
The other thing too, then this kind of brings up a thought in my mind, honestly, is like the new phase is jigging spoons. Like the Nicholson, that class of jigging spoon. Well, I remember when I was a kid, commercial fishing, and the crocodile. The crocodile had a 4 or 5 ounce spoon that these guys would be jigging in the race, and that's what they would catch on, just like the diamond jig and so on and so forth. And then now they brought back the jigging spoon, which has been around for decades, but they just like, and you see that evolution in lures. Like they'll just modernize it and then it will come back. Modernize it and it'll come back. Like it goes dormant for a bit and the fish don't really like it, and then they come back with new technology of it, and then it comes back and then they start to catch on it. Like it's crazy to me, honestly, some of the things that do come out. Like you see iCast and they have this lure and you're like, bro, that thing's been around for 35 years, but they just like changed something a little bit about it. Like not saying that the Nicholson spoon, there was anything wrong with it or whatever, and it works. It's very effective, but like it's just a reinvention of the things that they've used generations before us, right? Yeah. It's just crazy how they get so smart to it.
Yep.
So with you being a Thames boy, and this is a conversation I've never actually had on a podcast, but it's something I have my own theories on that. Like, and you growing up and fishing there, and I've also grown up and fished there, and maybe there's other fishers around the country that have seen the same exact thing, and with the population of stripers. But like, I remember being a kid and going there and having winter holdover stripers, and I mean hundreds of them we would catch in a day.
Thousands, probably. Well, thousands of them.
Yeah.
Catch hundreds.
In a day, right? Like in a day, dude. Like you would catch so many of them. What do you think is like the change from then till now in those holdovers? Because there's barely any holdovers, if any, in the winter of what it was.
there's some, but it's nothing near what it was. It's kind of sad. I've heard all types of theories, and I really couldn't even tell you. I sometimes I thought it was, because we want to get a good bunker run in the fall, so those fish want to get back up in there chasing the bunker in the fall, and then end up wintering over. But I remember 2 years ago, me and a buddy of mine went out there and was just scoping it out, and I was using a castable umbrella rig, and I was snagging bunker in December, so that proved that theory wrong.
Just so that they were still going up in there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was years that they were chasing up the white perch. I remember the white perch fries were in there, and they would be like all on them white perch and stuff. And and I'm gonna spit my theory, dude, and you can say yay or nay. I mean, you're right to your own opinion, but one of the things that I think, and a lot of this is generational memory, right? Like, there's certain spots. I mean, we could talk about, Plum Gut, the Sluiceway. There's 101 spots that literally, over generations of people fishing, they literally fish the memory out of these places, right? Where those big females that brought their young there every year on these migratory pushes, they literally were not bringing them back there, so that now those fish don't actually go there anymore, right? So one of the things in my theory for the Thames River, for the winter holdovers, with those big ones bringing the little ones there and those memories not being there, was the poaching was a huge thing down there, where I mean, you figure that these guys, even if they caught 5 fish a day, 7 days a week for X amount of months, you're literally fishing the memory out of it. That was a huge part of it in my thing. But one of the other things, and it has to do with memory, is if you think back, and I'm a nutcase when it comes to fishing, and I have log books of every fishing trip that I've ever been on, just to, like the things that we had started talking about, Adam, and with knowing historically where you've gone and been successful.
Yes.
But one of the things is, if you remember back, the years that those winter holdovers stopped going there was the same years that the state of Connecticut started using calcium chloride on the roads. Well, with that was the years of big snowstorms, where they would fill the parking lots along the Shetucket with big snowbanks, 10, 12, 15-foot high snowbanks, which then had calcium chloride in them. When they melted off was the months of the early spring, when the stripers would be in the river. So then now they're not going into the river, and then generationally now the memory is no longer there of those fish going into the winter. Call me crazy, dude. It's a weird theory, but it's just something that it kind of clicked in my mind of what potentially could. I mean, what is going to take the memory out of that? It's a
I think it very well could be, and I actually never knew about the correlation of when they disappeared and, when they started using the calcium chloride, and it definitely got me curious now.
It's just, it's one of the, you think about those things, right, man? Because when you're die hard into striped bass, you live, breathe, and dream big striped bass. It's, and I can see it in your Facebook, I can see it in your Instagram, yourself. And you just think about those things all the time. Where am I gonna go and catch a 50-pounder, dude? It's just, where is it gonna happen? And it's you just think about those things, man. And it's just one of the correlations that I lay in bed at night and I'm like, dude, where did they go? The hundreds of thousands of stripers. Where did they go, dude? There's no way that they disappeared. And that just one of those correlations I thought were kind of one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't think they just disappeared. I think they may be, they may even be in the Connecticut River holding over. but they definitely aren't in the Thames.
And it's crazy. I mean, one of the best holdover spots is the Housatonic in the state of Connecticut. Did those fish move to the Housatonic? Which they very well could have. You know what I'm saying? And it's not. It's just the food source isn't there for the winter or whatever the case may be. I mean, it could be a million and one things, right? But it was just a crazy correlation that I had always thought about was like that, and one of the other things that, and it kind of irks my mind, and I don't get to talk to big striper guys a lot, so it's kind of exciting for me, but the 50-pound striper, like the whole theory of the 50-pound striper, like that's like the benchmark for everybody. And and what is your thoughts on everybody being about the 50-pound striper? Like, go ahead, you can spit it, dude.
I'm happy catching 35-inch fish, man. I'm just glad to catch, decent sized fish. They don't have to be giants. And a lot of times some of these smaller fish, they'll actually put up just as good of a fight of some of these big fish, especially as you get later in the year and the water's hotter. And especially if you're in the river, the water gets warm in there and the oxygen level drops, and I feel some of those smaller fish will actually even fight better. But and I think there's bigger, I don't know why you would just set that bar at 50 when I know there's bigger ones out there as well. So
yeah, I mean, I know for a fact there is. Find out. I've seen them. I know there is. Like, I know the realization of it. There is bigger. But my thing is, like, everybody always shoots for, and they always say, it's kind of a negative thing, right? Where, like, everyone's like, oh, I got a 50-pounder. I got a 50-pounder. A true 50-pounder is supposed to be that once-in-a-lifetime fish. It's supposed to be that fish that you fish your whole entire life for to shoot. It's like going and shooting a 200-inch buck. It's like going and catching, a 1,000-pound bluefin. It's those correlations, it's supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And everybody, and the thing with fishing is that you're in a sport that it's only against yourself. So there's no checks and balances with it. When guys are like, oh, I got a 50-pounder. But, like, that should be that once-in-a-lifetime fish for you. Like you had said, going and catching a 25 or 30-pounder, dude, that's a good fish. Like, that's a... like, and I think... And the reason I bring it up is, like, because you will have clients... or you've had clients that are like, I want a 50-pound bass. But, like, dude, when you pull a 25-pound fish over the side of the kayak, that's just as good as a 75-pound striper in my eyes. Like,
absolutely.
I mean, people fish their whole life to catch a 40-inch striper. You know what I'm saying? Like that was, like, the benchmark originally, right? Like, I want a 40-incher. And then now it's this 50-inch unicorn, dude. And it's like you need to take every fish with a respect, like that 10-pound, 15-pounder. I mean, there's probably days that you just want to go out and catch schoolies, dude. Like, they're just a blast.
Absolutely, they are, man.
It's one of those things, dude. It's fun, but I just have you had any, like, crazy horror stories with clients or anything like that? I know, like, I always like to ask guides because, like, you never know, and there's always crazy things that happen.
Oh, I wouldn't say horror stories. I had guys that fell out and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy as a professional guide. When I was younger, I've had some really close calls and I've done some iffy stuff with some of my buddies, but other than that.
Like, what is that? You open the worms. What? Like, what?
Well, like, one day, I got onto some fish on outside an apple tree. And, I had two buddies. I'm not even sure if they ever kayak fished before. And, I was like, I know where these fish are, man. We're going. And I don't care what you say. I'm taking you. And, And, of course, I never checked the weather back then. I just went and, either fished or didn't fish. And we went out and we ended up on the outside of Napa Tree launching from Barn Island. And it was a beautiful night. We caught some good fish, and we ended up camping on the beach there. And woke up in the morning, and it was probably the scariest thing I have ever seen on the water. And I told them, like, we can try to make it back around, or we can just drag the kayaks over. And they're like, let's kayak around. And I was like, all right. And there's just some real nasty stuff going on. There's looking off we're right on the point, and you can actually pass real close to the point when it's pretty nasty out, but there's just a small spot where you can do it because there's a rock wall that comes off of the point. And on that rock wall that day, there was a standing wave. And a little farther out, like if we ventured, a half a mile off the point, there was a rip going. And to me, when I was that young, it looked like the waves were 14 foot tall, and it looked like they were 7 feet apart. And, I told my buddies we're off the point, and they were just on the other side of these breakers. So it was fairly calm. We just had some big rollers in that spot. And I was like, just stay aware of what you're doing, and hang tight in this spot. I'm going to proceed forward and check it out. And I got there, and it was this weirdest thing, man. I get to that spot in between the rock wall and the point, and to me, it looked like a half pipe. It was just a wave that just dropped off. And I believe they call it Hell's Kitchen. And I was almost crest over this thing, and I was like, I got to get back to my buddies. And I got back to them, and it just seemed like it was getting worse and worse out. And we ended up, passing through that. We had to ride a couple waves, and the current was so strong I could only paddle. I was paddling. I had to paddle just on my right because it was shoving me right into the rocks. So I'm trying to keep an eye on them, make sure they don't fall out of their kayaks. And at the same time as keeping myself on, but we all made it through. But it was definitely a hairy situation. It's hard to even explain it. Like it was gnarly. It was scary.
And I bet you that there's a ton of those situations where guys kind of get themselves kind of caught up because there is an education that goes behind being a kayak fisherman in the sound or in the ocean. Like there's an education process, and sometimes it's a do or die situation where you just got to learn how to deal with it and learn how to do it. Like it's not, and things change, man. Mother Nature does what Mother Nature wants to do.
Absolutely.
And you're not the only one, because I fish out there and we see kayakers out there and I'm like, where did you come from on a moon tide? You're going to be pedaling until you literally pass out because you are not going anywhere. There's nowhere to hide. And when you start to drift, I'll come and save you, but you got to learn your lesson. It's one of those things, man. So well,
and I still fish out there, and it beats me up, but you definitely got to be careful.
Do you know one area, and I don't even want to say this on a podcast, but one of the areas that I never see kayak fishermen, and it's probably for a good reason, is like on the south side of Fisher's Island. Like you don't see kayak fishermen back there. Like maybe it's just there's not a close paddle for them, or
no, you can get there. I've been there.
Okay.
And I know there's a group of touring sea kayakers that I run into that they go around Fishers all the time.
Yeah.
And that's definitely one of those spots you gotta definitely plan it according to the tides. You want to get there basically at slack tide. I like doing it, the end of outgoing, and then fight the incoming, and then ride the outgoing back.
That's smart. Yeah, and that's probably how you have to get to a lot of places, though, like that, right? I mean, that's kind of, you just got to plan it accordingly, get up early, do your thing, and just kind of...
And always be prepared to adjust, because it doesn't always work out the way you hope. If you didn't make that time, you may be stuck, you may have to go take shelter somewhere, or, go hit one of the beaches or something and hang out.
Start a fire and relax until the time comes. It's such his life. Well, Adam, I got one last question for you, man, and we ask everybody this, but what drives you outdoors?
Oh, and just to be out there and to be that close to nature and I just got an insane passion for chasing stripers out of the kayak, and I really don't know what else to say to that.
Yeah.
Like, just an obsession that's consumed me, and
I don't blame you there, man.
It's driven me for the past 20 years.
I don't blame you there at all, Adam. I really honestly
just trying to beat that last PB.
Yeah. Where is it? Where is it at that you got to beat it?
All 50 inches
out of the kayak.
Maybe like 50 and a quarter inches out of the kayak. Yeah.
That's insane. See, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You just proved the point to what I said. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing where you're fighting for that, which is the way it's supposed to be.
And that was actually beaten fairly recently.
Really?
Like I was stuck at 49 and a half, 49 and 3/4 for, I don't know, 10 years. And it seemed like every fish that was close was like right on 49 and a half or 49 and 3/4. Like, it was tough.
Isn't that crazy with PBs though? Like, and you probably went through the same thing where like you got a 40-incher, then you caught all the fish you caught were 40 inchers, and then you're like waiting for 45, and you're like, all right, I got my 45. Now every fish is a 45, and then you get the, like you're just like, all right, I got to 48. Every fish is 48 inches. Like you're like, where is that 50, bro? Like where is it? Like it just that.
Yeah, he was swimming right next to the 48 you just caught.
Yeah, it's crazy the way that it goes, man. Oh, well, that's absolutely crazy. But before we break off, man, I can you just tell everybody the website, Facebook, and Instagram where guys can reach out and kind of find you, chit chat with you, and maybe book a trip?
Yep. Facebook, at Stem to Stern Kayak Fishing. Same for Instagram, at Stem to Stern Kayak Fishing. And I do have a website. It's kind of lame, I'll tell you the truth. It's STS Kayak Fishing.
So Facebook and Instagram are the places, right?
Yeah.
Well, Adam, we really appreciate you joining us. Steve, you got any questions over there? I know you've kind of been quiet because you're not much of the fisherman, but...
No, I've just been soaking it all up. I guess if I had one question, though, could you, spec-wise on the kayak, because there's, you can go from, 10-footers to 14, 16-footers, so, like, what size are you using out there in these saltwater?
I'm using mainly for my clients. I'm using either the Old Town Big Water, which is a 13-footer, and then the Hobie Outback, which is, I believe, 12 and a half or something like that. But they're wide kayaks. They're fairly stable.
Sit on top.
Yep, sit on top.
Okay.
Pedal drive. One has the Mirage drive. The Old Town has the PDL drive.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty much my only question. I was just curious about
that.
And
then one of my favorite kayaks, I don't use it that much just because I always have the pedal drives on hand ready to go. But I do use a Stealth sit on top kayak, which is 17 foot and some change. So fiberglass sit on top. It has a built-in live well, and it's like a spaceship for a kayak.
Dude, it's like a landing pad, dude. What do you mean? That thing's giant, dude.
Well, it's 24 inches wide. It's like a spear.
Jeez, but it's real stable because it's so long.
Yeah, well, into your comfortability, like I feel plenty stable on it, but I know everybody won't it.
Well, that's good stuff to know. At least they know the ones to look forward to, especially being new, man. Well,
Yep.
Adam, really appreciate you jumping on with us, man. Hope guys go and check
My
you out.
pleasure, man.
At least follow on Instagram or Facebook, at least to watch kind of the cool things. There's some really good pictures of some real good bass and kind of see what's going on, man, and kind of hopefully somebody books a charter and goes out fishing and learns a little bit more from you.
And I do catch other stuff other than stripers.
I know.
I do blackfish, fluke, all the bottom fish. And then in the fall, I love targeting the little tunies, the false albies and the bonito.
I know. I just get sucked into the stripers.
Spanish.
I'm sorry, Adam. I'm sorry to ruin it for you, dude. Because they just
no worries, man. I'm the same way.
But at least there is some versatility because those are all real fun fun fish to chase, dude. Like they're just a blast. It's not. Especially the tog. I mean, tog's probably one of the best fighting fish pound for pound.
Absolutely.
I feel like on a clientele base too, it's nice to be able to go out and come home with a bunch of fillets.
Absolutely, and
when it comes all those bottom fish.
And stuff doesn't always work out for what you're targeting. Sometimes, to make the trip successful, you may have to switch it up and catch something else that day. You may not go home with the 50 incher. You may get a 28 incher and some good fluke or. I do strive to get everybody a 40-inch plus bass. That's my goal. If you want a big striper, I want to get you a 40-inch, 45-inch bass.
Oof. That's tough shoes to fill, Adam.
It is, but that's my goal. You got to set your goals high, and
that's right.
That's what I shoot for.
Well, you heard it from the man himself. Man, really appreciate you jumping on. Like I said, hopefully everyone goes and checks you out. Dude, go and check them out and see what's going on, and hopefully this season's good for you. And for everyone else, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.